Hello there. Is that
Hello.
Matt
Sorry about
Blair?
yes. Sorry about the delay there. I was getting the right spot ready for.
Getting the right spot ready. Speaking of the right spot, we need to have a spot for this trailer. So
All right.
let's do this. Well, there we go. Can't help ourselves. Big fans of Hitchcock and Planet of the Apes, we guess. Right then,
Of
it is
course.
5 pillars of storytelling. Following a few moments of elevated music and a bit of a trailer, we have got Matt Blair in the house tonight. Right then, we are the 5 pillars of storytelling live. Azrael is going to be speaking to Matt Blair. We do a bit of art, comics, movies, games, and toys. We see them linked, threading the eye of a needle. Art goes into comics. Comics can be made into movies. Movies can be made into games, and games can be made into toys. And the ultimate playground of storytelling, the imagination. Oh, to be back there. We might just have a quick go at that later with some action toys. Right then, it's Wednesday, the 23rd of April. Kaijus and cowboys, and maybe one or two other things. It's what we're going to be talking about. 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, London, and the UK Brit time. And I'm your host. I'll do a bit of an introduction for that. Welcome to the 5 Pillars of Storytelling Live. So hello there. When we talk about art, comics, movies, games, and toys, I'm your host, Azrael, and my secret identity is Carl Prometheus. There into that little green light on my monitor, show that we're maintaining a bit of eye contact with the audience, get to know you. And we're a storyteller, artist, and promoter of indie creators, indie comics, and we're doing our bit to help the growth of the indie comic community. We'll try to do our humble bit. So our shoulder is to Sisyphean boulder task that it is. Our style is universal. We can be watched by creative families, creative adults, and the creative younglings. So do any drama or swearing on this show. We think not all comics have to, but if indie comics want that bit of success, if you can do the whole classic Disney thing or speak to a young person while adults can enjoy it as well, that might be the holy grail for your, shall we say, success. Just a thought. Our motto on this show is to listen, to learn, and to share, and receive expert advice from our resident expert, Matt. We have an inspiring quote for you. Comics are an international language. They can cross boundaries and generations. Comics are a bridge between all cultures. We wonder what legendary Tezuka said that. He also said, we are now living in the age of comics as air. Very appropriate for the explosion of indie comics. You think manga's exploding? Indie comics are absolutely off the Richter scale, booming right now. So then, we always do a little bit of homework on our guests. We send out a crack reconnaissance team to go out there and just have them watched, not in a stalky kind of way, just in so that's who they are and that's what they get up to, So we don't know that much about Matt, but we thought, who better than him to tell you about himself, about their personality. So anyway, guest introduction, Matt Blair. We always do a bit of prose, and where possible, if we can highlight any praise or accomplishments or things that they're doing, we try to actually inform our audience about it. You never know, you might get to know them and get to know who they are and what they do, and feel like you form a rapport with them and maybe want to buy the product, and establish that creator-reader relationship, So it's Matt Blair. He's on X at mblair112 on X. He loves comic books. That's always a good start. When our reconnaissance team sees that, we go, yes, we love it when they do that. Creator and writer of the impressive-looking Romanis and Magicite, who we did actually see that. I thought, that's gone onto our consideration list. And then the Great Nexus sometimes throws us about a bit and we forget about things, or something else takes our attention. Like Homer Simpson, ooh, tree, or that sort of thing. And that's about that Romanis Magicae it's about the slums of ancient Rome. We might talk about this a little bit actually, where a broken ex-legionary stumbles across a plot to topple the Roman Empire. Also, Matt is the writer of the series Cajuns and Cowboys, with art by the one and only visual fiesta of Frankie B. Washington. Hello there, Frankie. We know you're hard at work at the drawing table. We know, man. Which is on its 6th issue. And yes, folks, with a trade paperback announced on the latest Crowdfunder. A big welcome to Matt Blair.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for dropping in, and thank you to do I call you Azrael or do I call you
Azrael's
Kyle
fine.
here? All right, well, and a big thank you to Azrael for bringing us on, and thank you for all the lovely research. I'm not the most sociable person online, but I do love establishing rapport with people, especially people who like reading comic books and people who enjoy, talking about art and creativity and culture and everything. So, and a big thank you to the research team. I must have not made it very easy for you guys. So,
Well, they're actually a new research team. They did a bit of work on the Tomb of Reckoning with Brother Dio's. Only one made it back because his book's about a werewolf, so we didn't realize that his property was guarded by creatures of the night. So we're kind of building out the team again, to be a bit more careful now, kind of watching a greater distance, So yes, it's a big hello to and a welcome to Matt Blair, and we're going straight into the big 5 questions. Who is Matt Blair? And you might want to have a little think about your storytelling influences, your comic journey, your movies, and your music. We're listening because that's what we do here.
All right. So, starting off with the hard-hitting questions here. I guess a little bit of background about myself. I was born in the U.S. state of North Carolina, and I moved around a lot when I was a kid. Both my parents were ministers, so there was very much a sense of we go where we're needed. Uh, you know, it's time, to think about others, think about like your life in the context of like a bigger picture, that sort of thing. Which is a pretty roundabout way of saying it was a very sort of solitary childhood, not in a bad way, just it's how it was. Another thing that I gravitated to, and one thing that was actually encouraged by my parents, was learning about history and especially Greek mythology. We all tend to have phases of things that we're interested in when we're little kids. Some of us like cars, some of us like horses. A lot of people have phases. Mine was Greek mythology. So like learning about the Greeks and the Greek gods and goddesses, and learning about the Iliad and the Odyssey. That was a huge story for me growing up, and something that I really enjoyed learning about, and that slowly morphed into a love of history. So ancient Greece, ancient Rome, uh, you know, the more modern history, that sort of thing. And so that's sort of like the foundation of who I am and where I come from. In terms of what I've done with that, another thing that I was encouraged to pursue was a study and love of music. Uh, when you're little, your parents want the best for you, and in my case, my mom really wanted me to play piano, and so I did that for 10 years, and that developed into a love of singing, and it developed into a love of art, and the love of history and the love of music sort of crossed over. So I know probably a little too much about the likes of Mozart, Bach, and that sort of thing, and how music has developed from the Baroque period to the modern era, that sort of thing. In
What grade did
terms
you get
of
to? So I've got to ask you this. Chip in there for a second. What grade did you get? Did you get any grades on your pianos on your piano playing? Get your grades 1, 2, 3? Any certificates?
I mean, I was part of a music school, but like it was all pretty informal.
Got you.
I will say this though, I did actually originally go to a university to sing opera, because I got it into my head that somehow that was a viable career path, and like I, I like it. I like music. I like being. I like studying it, but like being part of that world and being part of the like the life of a musician and surviving and trying to exist and like having your mind crammed full of music theory was what killed it for me. I was like, maybe let's step back and
Yeah.
do that.
Music
So
theory is very hard to wrap your head around. We can share a rare gem with our audience. Azrael once sung as part of a mixed male-female voice choir, Vivaldi's Gloria,
mhm.
in a Welsh cathedral. Now we'll move swiftly on and apologise for interrupting Matt's flow and let him continue about who he is.
All right. Oh yeah, yeah. I was a big choir nerd as well. So yeah, the singing in churches and singing in cathedrals was big. So thank you, Azrael. Um, in terms of and again, sort of that understanding of the classics and history and all that, it very much was a foundation for everything that came next. You'll notice that nowhere in this story do comic books show up. Um, however, I was a big reader of things like Calvin and Hobbes, Tintin, Asterix, that sort of thing. My parents weren't snobs, but I did grow up in the '90s, and if you know anything about American comic books in the 1990s, it was not the best time on the best time for the industry. So what happened was I went to college, decided that I wanted to be a history major instead of a musician. And this is about the time where the MCU was starting to take off, and I was like, okay, so this is something worth paying attention to. This is something that people seem to like and be interested in. Let's look into it. And then I started discovering the DC animated universe. Like, I came into superheroes and comic books kind of late, but at the same time, it was like, oh, these stories and this this stuff. It's very similar to what I grew up with, and very similar to stuff that I like and I'm passionate about, and stuff that I find interesting. It's like okay, so there's something there, and so you fall down like the geek rabbit hole. You start watching all the Batman movies. You start watching the cartoons, and then it's like where does that come from? And that took me to the comics. Um, Eventually, I graduated from college, and without getting into like too much detail here, um, things did not go according to plan. I graduated in 2012. We were just recovering from the 2008 financial crisis. I couldn't find a job to save my life. I wasn't, doing well, like physically and mentally, and I was, living with my parents. And I remember there was a day where I was lying in bed in the middle of the day, and I was like, you know, what am I going to do with my life? And I decided, let's make a comic book. It can't be that hard. Everyone else seems to be doing it. And spoiler alert, it is possible to come from nothing and to make a comic book and to have a something resembling a career. It's just very, very, very difficult. And in my creative journey when that started, like I met Frankie pretty early on, and we've been working together for the better parts of a decade ever since.
Impressive.
So yeah, yeah, and now we're here, and I'm here with Azrael, and we're talking about comics and stories and the Kickstarter. Also, I want to say thank
Well,
you. You are one of the first people that has actually pronounced Romanus Magicae correctly. So thank you for that.
that's right. We try our best with pronunciation. Sometimes we have idiosyncratic ones. It's like listening to music. Everybody imagines their own meaning to songs and says songs in their own
Hmm.
magic little way. But yes, so we try and pronounce things as best we can. Right, then let's get to
Yeah.
the next question. That was very interesting, especially the musical background, the
Oh
love of
yeah.
Greek mythology, and the Homer Iliad and Odyssey thing. That is what we call a robust storytelling foundation. And obviously,
Oh yeah.
ourselves, we grew up with musicals. You know what I mean? Everything from Calamity Jane, Doris Day, who we love as a singer. And so that comes sometimes from family. You know what I mean? And that kind of, I think sometimes you get shared family cultural background, which is part of your foundation. Then you develop your own from those, maybe a little bit, and build on it. And then you meet other people like Frankie, and then before you know it, you spent 10 years together. It's we had a gym partnership with someone, and yet after 10 years of lifting, he says, you should know me better than my wife knows me. He didn't quite put it that. He put it in a stronger way, because he was grunting and lifting a very heavy weight. But it's that, when you get special chemistry just right, it's lovely, isn't it? And Frankie
Oh,
seems like a
absolutely.
really lovely bloke. So, what does Matt Blair create then? Elevator
All
pitch.
right.
Somebody's walking past your convention table. What do you hit them with, Matt?
All right. So, as previously stated, I have two comic books out at the moment, although we are working on more. I run a very, very small publishing outfit called Cambrian Comics. We have these two books out at the moment. We are working on more, so stay tuned. Basically, I like to describe our books like this. We have Kaijus and Cowboys, which is it's a sci-fi western, but it's about a robot Clint Eastwood who wanders around an alien planet fighting kaiju-sized monsters. So if you want like the biggest, brashest, most stupid idea ever, but put into comic book form and given shape and form through my writing and Frankie's amazing art, that's the book for you. It's pretty good for readers both young and old, and it's very action heavy, and like Frankie's art is absolutely gorgeous. Like I made Kaijus and Cowboys specifically so that Frankie could show off his talents in art, and like Frankie is the kaiju fan of this duo.
Right.
Um, uh, and so, like, since we've been
Is it
working
like a
together for so
co-creational kind of thing? Is it a co-creational kind of thing? Is it like that?
Yes, yeah,
That's cool.
absolutely. Like my only instruction when we were settling on like the design and aesthetic of Kaijus and Cowboys was the main character is a robot who has a duster jacket made of kaiju skin. Everything else you see in that book, in terms of design, in terms of action, in terms of like how it's presented, that's all Frankie. And so just like, I'm a big believer in like, sitting back and letting, artists create. Because, they're the ones that have to be around the book for months on end. They're the ones that have to be with it. So like, if you have a situation where a great artist can unleash their creativity, nothing but good things happen. The second book I have is Romanus Magicae. The writing's by me. The artwork is by a guy named Paul Pert Smith, who is a artist who is currently based in Australia, but he's from the UK. The colors are done by Ava De La Cruz. She's done work for literally everyone: Marvel, DC. She's actually doing some color work on a Godzilla comic by IDW. So nice little crossover there. And I like to describe it as like a little bit of Hellboy slash the BPRD, and maybe a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but set in ancient Rome. So like myth, magic, bloodshed, intrigue, and it's an ensemble story. So like the main characters are kind of like the Scooby Gang, kind of. But they're their own characters in their own in their own world. The same for for this, and I created it for kind of the same reasons I created Kaijus and Cowboys. The difference is that, well, I made Kaijus and Cowboys to let Frankie be as creative as he wants. I made Romanus Magicae for me. Like this is a story that's been in my head for years, and I've been like fine tuning it and tweaking it ever since. And so that's That's where that comes from.
Matt,
So.
just from what you previously, just to show we were listening about the foundational aspect that we talked about in terms of the Who, do you think there's just that little bit of the classics, Homer, the Iliad, the Odyssey, just creeping through there into Romanus Magicae?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There's that, but also like my love of history is also very much in the forefront with this as well. Specifically, uh, w- over the course of my time studying like ancient Greece and Rome, history tends to focus on like a few key moments and a few key people, which tends to create a certain aesthetic and a certain way of viewing things. Specifically, like with ancient Rome, like there are so many books and movies about like for example, Julius Caesar out there, and it's like it's understandable. Like we can't we can't focus on everyone. And like, in a world where people didn't write everything down, like we don't have that information. So like, yes, we focus on like, what survives and, who, they remembered, when they remembered something and, they had the decency to write it down, we remember it. What it does is like, we have this very particular view of Rome, like,
Yeah.
marble, temples, powerful men and sometimes women, talking making deals with each other and like, trying to survive. But what that does is it ignores the 99.9% of people that actually lived during that time. Rome was not a monolith. Rome was not always a city of marble, and for some people living in Rome, it was very different. Um, Also, when it comes to ancient Greek mythology, we have our stories and we have our interpretations of them. But like, what if we did something a little bit different? Like, you know, um, another thing that was very important to me when I was writing this book is that if you study Greek mythology and you read the stories, every interaction that the gods have with regular people ends in disaster. Like you cannot question the will of the gods. You cannot, change the will of the gods. You can't change your fate. You are doomed the second that the divine comes into your life. So, like, what does that
Yeah,
mean? Like
Matt,
on
we've
a level.
noticed that. We've noticed that in our own lives, actually. Just
Well,
saying.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah. Uh, but it's always more um, understandable when like you're watching it from someone else, from someone else's point of view. It's easier to digest when, as opposed to what's going on now, where it's like I'm being affected. I'm so overwhelmed, like I can't like take a step back and process what's going on in my own life. So what I'll do is I'll look at it through the eyes of someone else, and that that disconnect can be helpful and important and necessary at times.
And
So, like,
illuminating. Yeah.
like there's this whole like it's a little bit of everything. It's like the stories, the history, the archaeology, the culture, all of that. Like all of that's there in Romanus. So yeah, that's where both of the stories come from. If
So you've certainly
and
got
yeah.
a choice there. You've certainly got a choice there. And the name of your comic imprint again, because remember when we first came into doing positive championing of the indie comics scene 2 years ago now, is about now 2 years ago. Is it Cambrian Comics?
Yes, Cambrian Comics.
We noticed and we
CAMBRAIN.
thought, is that Matt Blair's imprint? So we're always kind of quizzical, but you've confirmed it for us. So you've got
Yeah.
now a stable of books that you're working on, two that have a pedigree in the marketplace already. Yes.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yes.
with Romanus Magicae and obviously with Kaiju and Cowboys as well. So, they're two very different books, and that's got to be a strength. So people, your audience have got a choice,
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know?
Actually, if you're willing to let me step away for a minute, I can show you
Um,
the third book we have. I'm gonna
Please
move.
do. Oh, a preview. We like exclusives on the Five
Yes.
Pillars of Storytelling Live. Let's have it. Let's do it, Matt. So we're going to get ourselves a little preview of something. We shall look forward to seeing this. We will. So yes, Cambrian Comics have 2 books, Romanus Magicae and Kaijus and Cowboys. 2 different books, certainly gives you a bit of variety if you want to back the books. Certainly we're interested in Romanus Magicae, and we've already backed Kaijus and Cowboys in the past, and the digital comics for international customers are so affordable.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes, we're big believers in letting people. We want people to read the comics, and like yes, I want to make a living up of this. I would love to become rich and famous doing this, but comics should be readable. Comics are meant to be read. Comics are meant to be enjoyed and discussed and talked about.
Accessible.
So exactly. So yes, we have digital bundles available for backers in the United States and internationally. We do ship internationally, and we have pretty consistent and pretty set prices. It's going to be like this whole tariff situation. If it's going to have to get a lot worse before we start raising prices. So just letting you know, we
There's a bit
do.
of tolerance. There's a bit of tolerance. So don't worry, we've done a full presentation for you, Matt, and you, Frankie, at the drawing board. We've prepared for an hour for this, and we've got the campaign page, the options, the art, the trade paperback thing. If you get to issue
And I
number
also
6, you must be doing something right.
We try. We also are offering this.
Oh, that looks intriguing.
This is you can find this on our campaign page if you want to check it out. This is Guardians of the Last Dragon. This is actually the first book that we're putting out that is not written by me. This is written by a good friend of mine named Zachary Schimmel. The artwork is by a guy named Ben Basil, and I helped edit it. So, I'm involved. So, if anyone at a convention is like, you didn't make this, it's like I helped. This
but
book,
it's about having a philosophy or stable of books where if
exactly.
it's your company, you have a kind of philosophy, a creative philosophy that you can impart. So if your touches on most things, then an audience can still access your company motto.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, we don't have a motto just yet, but we are a big believer in having a wide variety of books in a wide variety of styles by a wide variety of people. It is just me at the moment, but we're working on that. Can't say anything else on this, but yeah, Guardians of the Last Dragon. Speaking of looking different,
Is
it
that painted
is.
grayscale though, along with the black and white?
Yeah, there's a little bit of gray.
It's a grey wash, and we like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
This is
spot red color as well.
yes,
Spot red,
yes.
very nice.
Spot colors. Um, Zach is a big anime fan. I don't know if if this is familiar to the people in the people watching this, but Jinro, the Wolf Brigade. Um, there's a rather iconic image of it's a brutal difficult anime to watch, but there's a very iconic image of it's this dystopian nightmare where the soldiers of the regime dress in um, how dress in very authoritarian outfits, and they have like glowing red eyes, and like that was very much a aesthetic that we wanted to ape with this comic. This one with the elevator pitch, I like to describe this. If you've ever watched a movie called Underworld,
Yes.
it's vampires versus werewolves. This is knights versus dragons. But knights and dragons. And it's cyberpunk dystopia. It's the closing days of the war between humanity and the dragons. The dragons have lost. They have absolutely lost, but they're desperately trying to sneak the last of their kind off the planet. And so what you saw in those pages was like the opening chase scene. So we're very excited for this book. It is also available on the campaign. So if you want to check it out, we have both digital and both physical copies available. and we're going to be working on giving this its own release later in the year. So,
At the risk
three
of being
different
cheeky,
books.
you've got
Yes.
3/4 books. At the risk of being cheeky, now that we've seen the paper copy, you started something here, Matt. Now that we've seen the paper copy of the Knights and Dragon book, you know what we want now. Because we have we had Peter Sametti on a few weeks back, and we started talking about the tactile nature of comics, even how they look, paper comics, how they feel, and how they smell as well. Yeah, especially if you've gone into an old comic shop where they've got lots of back issues that aren't bagged, you can smell it. Yeah. Have you got any paper copies of Kaiju and the Magikai book around? Just saying.
Let
Doesn't
me
matter if
check.
you have.
Hold on.
Just a thing we have for paper comics, Matt. I mean, we thought now we've seen the Knights and Dragons one. We're thinking, obviously, we've experienced Kaiju and Cowboys as a digital product, but we love it. It's vibrant. It's portable. It's more cost effective for international customers. Yes, but seeing those paper copies it's another thing, isn't it? It just is. Just another thing. Yeah. So Cambrian Comics give you a choice of now 3 indie comic books. Yeah. Matt's got his editorial fingerprints on the Knights and Dragons book. It's Team Matt and Frankie B on Kaijus and Cowboys, and Matt is the writer on the Romanus Magicae book, which has got its
So I wasn't able to find a copy of the Romanus book lying around, but we have them on order. But we do have the Kaiju's book. And Frankie's old school. Like he is a he's a child of the 70s and 80s. So like if you
Good
want,
man, Bronze era.
yeah, absolutely. Herb Trimpe is the guy that gets tossed around a lot.
Is
When
that an
Frankie's
influence of
talking about
Frankie,
this
Herb
stuff.
Trimpe? Yeah, he
Oh,
likes Herb
absolutely.
Trimpe. He did a great
Yeah.
Hulk run, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what he likes. And like what like I don't have I don't know, I don't have insight into a whole lot of insight into someone's mind. Like I wish I could read minds, but
Indeed.
when we were working on this character, Frankie was talking about like the influences of what he of what he drew on when he was making the character, and he was talking about how Jack Kirby's Machine Man, Clint Eastwood, and Jet Jaguar were the inspirations for creating the main character, who
I can see
is right there. He's the bot with no name, or
that.
B-Win
With no
as we
name.
call him.
Got you.
So that little.
Sergio Leone, kind of the man with no name. Love it. I tell you what, you can
Absolutely.
tell that it's got Frankie B's fingerprints all over that one. Very nice to actually see the interior pages of the comic. Actually, the digital's lovely,
Yeah,
but the paper comics, they're just their own beautiful, magical thing. Now,
absolutely.
we thank you for sharing those. Well, what you've got now, you've clearly got your own line of comic books. It's 1, 2, and 3, and very interesting to see all 3 of them there. They're quite a contrast. Nobody will be able to say of Cambrian comics that you don't give people different choices and different flavors. And if you don't like the other 2 books, they might like this one. It's a nice kind of kaleidoscope of choice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like if you like older Bronze Age comics or like older manga, you want to check out Kaijus and Cowboys. If you want something a little more, with European bent, check out Romanus Magicae. And if you want something that's a little more recent, in terms of especially with like manga influences, Guardians of the Last Dragon is absolutely there.
Guardians of the Last Dragon, yeah. I can see
Yes.
there that cosmopolitan European look with the Magikai book, and then the Guardians book is a little bit more mangaized. We do like that. Distinct flavors from Bronze, to kind of almost European to manga. That's a good trinity of styles to have. Very,
Oh
very,
yeah,
very
yeah.
good.
And that was
Now,
completely planned and entirely intentional.
well, it
If
looks intentional, but to me, that's not such a bad business proposition if you're putting out your obviously there's the creator side of creating independent comics, yeah, but
yeah,
it is art, but it's commercial art.
yes,
Eventually
yes,
obviously you want to build your audience, but to make a living off it is preferable. So that way you can put your shoulders to wheel and enjoy creating it, knowing that it can actually put food on the table. That's what we all want to do. It's just a form.
absolutely,
Commercial arts is just a form of bartering. So
absolutely.
tell us about this cover then. Is this the cover to issue number 6? Explain it to us like we're an alien from another planet, please.
Okay, so well, speaking of aliens from an alien planet, that's exactly what's on the cover. Uh, so issue 6 is the halfway point of the 12 issues that we have planned for this series. And if you've been following the comic since for the past couple of years since we've had it going, or if you're completely new, what you need to understand is that the first 6 issues have all been leading up to this. Uh, the Bot with No Name and his companions, they wander around this alien planet, but without giving too much away, pretty early on, we've revealed that there's this giant kaiju. I like to describe him as like a turtle the size of Manhattan. That is, it's gunning for them. It's coming for them, and the last 3 issues. 3 or 4 issues are them just running for their lives, like desperately trying to escape this monster that's coming. And it leads them to sort of like the main city of the robots. Like this is their fortress, this is their sanctuary, this is where they're supposed to be safe. They are absolutely not safe. And so issue 6 is the culmination of that arc. This is like the final battle. This is the everything comes to a head here, and I do not want to spoil anything, but it is awe-inspiring what
Good.
happens. Like you're going to read this, and you're just going to be like, whoa, and because that's what a kaiju story is. Like it's like there's always that moment in a Godzilla movie where like you see Godzilla takes on like the monster of the week, and there's that moment where he stands over the defeated you know body of his opponent, and he lets out the roar, and it's just that it's that money shot. It's that moment that that makes your hair stand on end. And we have one of those moments, or we've done the best we can with that moment. So
You've got
this
that target
cover.
audience there. You've got cowboys,
Mhm.
robots, and monsters. Basically, that is another trinity. Quite canny.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like and like it makes sense. Like it sounds weird and it sounds stupid, and honestly, it kind of is. Like, but like there's beauty in taking something that seems so weird and off-putting, and and disparate, and like making it work. Like whenever people ask me like what the story is about, I always tell them this. On one hand, you have kaiju, and what is a kaiju? A kaiju is a literal force of nature. Godzilla was created in the aftermath of World War II, and Japan was trying to process the horror of what they had been through, and so in comes Godzilla saying, if you continue down this path, destruction and violence awaits. Like there's nothing but death for you here. So it's very much like humanity, being like a passive observer to its own fate. On the other hand, what is a cowboy? Well, a cowboy is like the exact opposite of that. Like there's the narrative of like the cowboy in the American West, going out, you know going out to the untamed wilderness and like taking what's yours and making it your own, and damn anything that's in your way. Sorry, one swear per stream, I swear.
So
Um,
basically, it's that kind of frontier American story of pulling yourself up
mhm.
by your bootstraps.
Yeah, and so you have the that Western idea of the cowboy versus that Eastern idea of the kaiju, and it's like there's this very deep, very fascinating conflict between these two.
Yeah, and when you say
Uh,
that, I'm thinking Clint Eastwood. We're thinking Clint Eastwood meets Godzilla, and that. How about that for a tagline crossover? That does your audience right
exactly,
there. What's always
exactly. I
popular?
mean, yeah,
Yeah, Clint Eastwood's cowboy movies, even now, have that magnetic appeal. And what's on in Japanese movie theaters relatively recently? Godzilla with a follow-up pending. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And so it's like, what happens when these two philosophies clash together?
Yes.
What happened, who's right? Like, on one hand, it's like, we're destroying the planet, but on the other hand, it's like, we, I want to live, I want to survive. Who are you to tell me how to live? Who are you to tell me how to, live differently? Screw you. So, so like that's the conflict at the heart of this book. And it does get resolved, and like there are elements of like you can see what's going on from both sides, but that comes later, so shh.
Yes. I see. That segues nicely into the premise. So, Kaiju's and Cowboys number six, and we'll do our movie voice, such that it is. It all comes down to a head in the battle of the century. Robots, Kaiju. Who will win? The hunter and the robots he has sworn to protect go head to head with the biggest, baddest, and most dangerous Kaiju yet. No more running, no more hiding, just a straightforward, knockdown, knuckle busting fight for survival. Yeah, we like the sound of
This
that.
time on WWE.
Oh, yeah. So tell us about this vibrant fiesta of colourful Frankie B interior art, please, Matt. We'll go through 5 pages from your crowdfunder on Kickstarter.
Okay,
Boom, boom, boom.
so
Give us the boom, boom, boom.
yes, so these are the first 5 pages of the comic. We always put like the first couple of pages online for people to see if they want to check it out. Um, Incidentally, I do apologize for Frankie not being able to be here. He's, going through some stuff that it's some personal stuff. So, he's, that's what's going on.
We say
But
Frankie B. Washington, Godspeed.
yes, yeah, feel better, man. So this is page one. This is the thing about comics is that like since they are told in since you tell a large story in single issues over the course of years, you have to have a moment where like you can bring readers up to speed, and like you can show them what's going on, what's happened. You can hint at what's happened in previous issues, and like you can set up the premise of this issue, and that's kind of what this is. This is
Almost like a breather, almost to catch your breath.
Exactly. We used like if you read a lot of the older comics, you see like previously on Fantastic Four or what have you, and it used to be like the text scroll. I mean, Star Wars had that, like that was aping the movie serials during a time when people didn't necessarily have as much access to media as we do now. So like you had to bring readers up to speed at different times when they don't necessarily know what's coming on. Um, what we try to do is we try to sort of bake that into the plot, um, and give readers a rundown as to what's happening. So you have the robots; they're standing at the wall of their city for various reasons. The central nervous system of the city is down, so it's just them. Their backs are against the wall in literal figurative sense, and the monster is coming. Like you don't see him but you hear him, and if you look on the fourth panel, right down there. One of the things that Frankie likes to do is he likes to bake the sound effects into the art. So you just see the boom, 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 and in every good monster movie, you have the close up of the people as they, as they look on in horror, as like, oh God, what's coming? So that's page one. Um, and so yeah, and here come the horde. Here comes the horde of monsters. The robots prepare. The city defenses, what they have, what they can gather together is activated, and so like you're setting things up. And like the other thing you have to understand about like comic books as a medium, I think the rule is, I remember reading, you have 3 pages. You have 3 pages to grab the reader's attention, to inspire a sense of curiosity, and to get them to keep reading the book.
Mm.
So that's something we very much have anticipated here. So
Yeah.
everything's getting prepared, everything's building, and everyone's on edge. So that's page 2.
Yeah, I have to say we do like the sound effects that are hardwired into the art. I think that
Hmm.
is we like that. It's nice and edgy, but it's also vibrant, and it's what do you say?
Yeah,
It's like
it's one of the
almost like
things
a
that,
visual. It's almost like an infusion. Go on.
yeah, it's comic books are their own medium, and comic books are their own art form, and it's like there is a school of thought that became very prevalent when the MCU started, that oh, comic books are just movies but in book form. And it's like, no, 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 that's not the case. You can play around, like comic books have their own tools and their own way of sharing information that is unique and special to them, and that deserves to be celebrated. Like and it's the same with any form of media. Like music has certain tools in the toolbox that you can use to express a certain feeling or an aesthetic. Movies are the same. Like you can do things with light and sound and motion that in movies that you can't do with anything else. Books, prose novels, it allows the reader to engage their imagination.
Yes.
Comics, but comics, like you have pictures, you have the panels, you have the sound effects. Like these are all things that you can use, and these are all things that you can play around with to tell a story in a new and interesting way,
Part
or
of
a
the
way that
comic
it
book
look.
Part of the
Yeah.
comic book, shall I say, language, arsenal, and armory of tools. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And
So
here we see it again. We like the choom choom choom. It's so
yeah.
visceral and impactful. You know what I mean? It's hard to imagine this as a comic book movie. Leaning to your idea, and perhaps Alan Moore's as well, that comics are their own unique medium with their own unique conventions, and that we can
Hmm.
sometimes say, why don't we just embrace that and celebrate it,
Exactly. Like
as you're
yeah,
doing
I
here?
mean, this like, I mean, comic books are they were created to they were created to be cheap, disposable, and like engaging for like a 10-year-old. Like that's where like the first superhero comics came from. So like what is like what's something that like a 10-year-old kid would find really interesting. And like when we made this book, we decided it was robots, lasers, and monsters. And so like you finally but with that being said, like even though like comic books are its own unique medium, there's still stuff that we can learn from other things. Like when I was a musician, when I was studying music, I learned more about like pacing and like anticipation and planting ideas in an audience's head from music than I learned from anything else. But at the same time, with like movies, you also see like how a conflict plays out. Like there's certain beats and there's certain moments that you can play around
Storytelling
with as
piece,
well.
a kind of a creative pattern of storytelling,
Exactly.
almost like
And
music, and a
yeah,
script. That's a script can be a similar kind of rhythm, creative rhythm to it.
yeah, absolutely. Actually, this page actually ties into professional wrestling a little bit
Go
in
on,
terms of
we're all
storytelling
ears.
because
Do like wrestling.
so well, like what when you watch a WWE match, there's a flow and a rhythm to it. You have like the face and you have the heel. You have two people in the ring, and they're telling a story. And there's usually you can trace it like beat for beat. Like there's a moment where like the good guy looks like they're going to win, but then the bad guy comes in with the steel chair and like takes the momentum from the fight back, the momentum of the fight back. And so like it looks like the bad guy is going to win, but at the last minute the good guy pulls a victory seemingly out of nothing. And that is what this is. That's what this page is. Like there's that moment of like hope where it's like oh, like it looks like there's it looks like the good guys are holding the line. They're uh the monsters can't stand against these city defenses. It looks like they're going to finally win. It looks like everything's going to be okay. But when you have the next page, builds a little bit more. Says that again. And then the next one,
Fun.
like near the end, it's like, oh, no, it's not. The monsters are severely the monsters are massively more powerful than the robots, and so like they come in and they they take the day, and it looks like it's going to be the end, but then something happens, which again, it's that big moment in the book that I'm not going to spoil.
It's
But
explosive. It's colourful. Frankie B, you are a riot of colour, and we do
yes,
like here in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is it 9 with the kind of silhouette? And there's this green, kind of almost radioactive green background, and the silhouette, and you've got the eyes, mouth, and the symbolism of the star as well. What a contrasting image of positive, negative space, but turned up with radioactive color to volume 11 on your soundbar. We like that, Frankie B.
yes, yeah, and like I said, like I think this particular page I actually had it written as 4 panels, but Frankie took this and like added his own twist to this. And like it goes back to like what I said, letting the artist cook, letting the artist be creative, letting the artist bring their expertise and their thoughts to bear. That's what this is.
Absolutely. It's
So
it's it's
yeah.
it's indelible, isn't it? He's got his own style there. It's you can't
Hmm.
see. Tell you what, we've looked at thousands of books while doing indie comic promo, and each one is unique. But certainly, there's nobody like Frankie B, and there's nothing out. Feel there's nothing out there quite like Cages and Cowboys. It's utterly unique, and
Thank you
that
so much. We're really proud of this, and we've been pushing hard, and we've been hard at work at this for years now. Like this actually started
how many
as
years? How many years? Two,
it
three,
started as a pandemic project in 2020, so 5 years coming on now.
5 years. So it's a handful of years now.
Yeah,
So that's half a decade. Tell us about this panel here, then. So really, number
yeah.
six.
So
Number six
yeah,
is a milestone for you, and congratulations on that milestone to you and Frankie B. To get to
thank you.
six, you're halfway there to getting into we call it the holy grail of double figures.
Yeah, yeah. So that it almost feels like spoiling the magic here a little bit, but we did not intend for this to evolve into what it did. Like I said, this started as a pandemic project, and I cranked out the script in like God, 3 hours. And so, we got it done, and we put it on Kickstarter in 2021, and it did really well. And we actually had some interest from a publisher who I'm not going to mention because reasons. Um, Mostly because the book did not work out. It didn't work out. So we were left with this, and the publisher was like, "Can you turn this into 12 issues?" And I was like, "Sure, we can do that." And so, that happened, and we were committed to it, and like we had a contract signed, and then it just fell through, as it does. And so we were like, oh, well, we have the 12 issues here, and we already have it started. Let's just do this on our own, because we believe in this project, and we this is a story we want to tell. So this page, it's combining the larger conflict that's happening, on the city walls with what's happening to our main characters. You have the bot with no name on the top, and you also have Doc, who's sort of like the audience surrogate of the story. He's the one that talks. He's the one that asks questions. He's the one that has everything explained to him so that the audience knows what's going on. But what's happened is, the central mainframe of the city that is supposed to be managing all this, that's supposed to be doing this, it is crashed and shut down, and the bot with no name is stepping in to be like, I can fix this, I can do this, but Doc needs to be the one to connect me. So, will our hero be able to, uh, arrive on time? What's going to happen? Will this be able to, you
Yeah.
know, be fixed before the kaiju completely overrun everything? So,
Yes. So it's at that tipping point.
yes, yes,
I
and
noticed we noticed one thing here is the texture of the paper. Is that from the actual printed edition, or do you put that texture especially on the digital version as well? That's something that Peter
it's
Simeti does with his King Cryptic PDF comics.
it's both. Like, to show you from the book that I have.
Let's put you on big screen.
To show you from the book that I have. Yes, the colors, and the page are very much meant to evoke an older comic. Um, but I mean, in terms of paper quality, it is, this is a modern book with modern
Yeah.
printing techniques and modern paper quality.
Yeah.
But it's meant to, have the aesthetic of an older
To
comic and
appeal
more
to that charming nostalgia of our beloved childhood memories, perhaps, of what comics were as we remember them and fondly remember them.
It's meant to evoke. I've noticed this, like, with most things that are meant to be nostalgic. It evokes the feeling that you got when you had it without the problems of of the stuff that came with that. Because I mean, like, especially when it comes to like older comics, it's like, yes, there's that certain smell, there's that certain feel of the paper, but at the same time, like, this is cheap pulp, and it's, the printing techniques that were used. The ink was runny. The line art wasn't as crisp or as well defined as it, as it could have been, and like it could have been a lot better, because like we know that, because you had like companies like EC Comics producing gorgeous, beautiful artwork, and but then, like, with all due respect to like the people, who worked really hard to make the stories that we love, like, they were making low art. um I don't want to say trash because that feels bad, but like, it was,
Well, what
it
you've got
it,
though
it was meant.
is what you've got is an inception of a new medium where the medium's finding its own feet, and it's intended to be a form of popular culture, isn't it?
Yeah, Yeah, well, I mean,
Um,
like also like this is a distinctly American thing. Comic books were facing a lot of pushback and a lot of flack. Like I like reading about like the old comics from the 40s and 50s, and rather famously in the late 40s, there were people who thought that superheroes would turn your children queer, and like there were literal.
let's move on. Basically, we're from that
Yeah,
very quickly. It's not something we talk
yes,
about with our audience. We don't talk about politics, sexual religion, but we do note that
yeah, sorry.
Frederick Wortham had his book, which basically looked into basically a sense of discussing a kind of moral responsibility of what storytelling has. Yeah. And there were,
Yeah.
just to overview this for our readers who might be a little bit younger, basically you had mass book burnings, and obviously parents were involved, and then the politicians were involved, and they certainly they get on the bandwagon with things, just like which direction the wind blows. But yes, it did a lot of damage to the comic book industry. The Wortham book, and he made a set of assumptions based upon his studies. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yes, and you could say, I guess this is probably broadly agreed upon, that actually uh, EC Comics probably took it just that little bit too far. And then before you know it, you've got the Comics Code Authority. And then what happens is, once somebody takes it too far, then obviously everything swings back the other way. And then you get
Mhm.
insufferably harmless entertainment, where you get Batman, who ends up, well, I think I'm quite charmed by his stories of the 1950s, because you get all sorts of it. Sometimes you get invention is the mother of necessity, whereby you get
Yeah,
a set of
yeah.
restrictions, and how creative can you be? And as we are in this age that we're living in now with independent comics, there are less restrictions in terms of print quality, because you've got digital printing on demand. You've got the biggest comic shop on the face of the planet, called the internet, with 5 billion connected to it. Yeah. And you've
Mhm.
got, how many copies do you want to print? Well, you've got a quality product, as you and Frankie B have with Kaijus and Cowboys. How many of those can you sell? Well, you've got a quality product. You got a great product. Can you make a great noise big enough to make a living out of this? Yeah, you get
Yeah,
a
well,
thousand
yeah, we're
people,
working on that.
and if you can get a tribe of 1,000 people, then basically 1,000 of anything, and then you put merchandising into that. All of a sudden, you've got revenue
Mhm.
streams, and you've got an audience that will probably follow you to hell and back.
Be on the lookout for that. But yeah, like, the story of comic books, especially in America, like I know it was a little bit different in Britain and in Europe, but the story of comic books in America is a story of perseverance, and it's a
Yes,
story of making something as good as you can with the rules within the confines of some very strict rules that must be followed. Like like you said, there was an organization called the Commerce Code Authority in the United States for a very long time. That not this isn't political, I swear, but like there were certain guidelines to how a book should be presented. My personal favorite rule is that good shall always triumph over evil, which is like how does that work? But yeah, it was despite all of these limitations, despite all of these rules, there was this incredible outpouring of really cool ideas and amazing stories. And we've taken that, and like the comics code is no longer a thing, uh, but that creative spirit is still there. And there's never been a better time to be a comic book creator. Like
all
you
the
said, with
tools
the
are out
internet
there.
and
There's
with
never
all.
been a better time to do it, folks. While we've got this window of opportunity, and we don't say cynical side, but we would say, while there is this window of freedom of 5 billion people connected to the internet, digital print on demand. And if you want to go the paper route, there's Amazon as well, also the biggest bookshop on the planet. There's
Hmm.
as long as you can turn up consistently and create a page a day as an artist, or write a script a page a day as a writer, you can get a book out within a month or two. You can at least aim for quarterly. Some indie comics are going quarterly. Some get it done in half a year, and that's with debut books. So you can crank the gears. You can go from a year to half a year to quarterly to bi-monthly, as Dave Sim started off with Cerberus. With Cerberus the Aardvark, he started off on the bi-monthly schedule. Then he got his background artist Gerhard in, and then they cranked it to a monthly schedule. And you build it, and they will come. And you just got to get the messaging out there on social media, folks. Get great product, yeah, but make some noise, so people.
And it's not just getting a product out. It's not just printing, and it's not just selling the book, which that's an important part. It's access to communications and to the communication. Like, I can go on any social media site and be like, hey, I'm looking for an artist, and I have had I can have half a dozen people drop their portfolios in my inbox in an hour. And not only that, like, these people are from all over the world. Like, I'm living on the west coast of the United States, Frankie's on the east coast of the United States, and Paul's in Australia, and you're in the UK. It's like, at no point in human history would this ever be possible except now, and that's magnificent. And like,
it is magnificent. We call it, Matt, Star Trek technology.
Yeah, Star Trek tech. Star Trek tech, and like, I like to joke that internet, like, comic book culture is internet culture, in terms of, like, being able to engage with fans and talking about stories and themes and all that stuff. So we truly are living in a magnificent and wonderful time.
Absolutely. I would say it's one big party, and find the people you enjoy chatting with. It's as simple as that.
Exactly.
Now, Matt, we do have a Kaiju's and Cowboys trailer, and we thought, what, it might be nice to play that and just see what it looks like. So how about we do that right now? I need to put that on the stage. Hopefully we can do that. We need to turn that one off, remember, and we need to put that one on, and we need to go to the other one. We'll have to get ourselves a stream box. Here we go. We do like that trailer. Tell us about it, Matt, please.
So I enjoy, I like to think of myself as like a Renaissance man. I enjoy music. I enjoy comics. I enjoy movies and all that. And I am a sucker for a well-made trailer. Something that captures the theme and the essence of a movie without giving too much away. It's beautiful. And so I've taken it upon myself to make the trailers for my Kickstarters, our Kickstarters. This, I was thinking, it's issue 6. It's a giant, action scene. Like, this is like like what, this is what a kaiju movie is about. Like, what I see when I think of this is what I think of when I see a kaiju movie. And so, like, the idea of like this encroaching horror that is unstoppable and like bigger than anything you've ever seen, like, I wanted to try to capture that sort of essence. And so, you have like the footsteps. So, like, fun fact, the footsteps of Godzilla in the original are artillery shells. Like, that's what that is. And so, like, I was, looking through like a sound effects library, it's like, artillery shells, like, what's a good sound for that? And that's what I found. And there's nothing more terrifying to me personally than the sound of an air raid siren, because it's like the threat is coming, you know, death, doom, and obliteration await, and there is nothing you can do except run, hide, and pray. So that's, that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to show. So, like, it's that combination of anticipation and followed by just incredible violence. And I did, I did recycle a lot of images from the first couple of pages. So, like, there's not a whole lot of new stuff, but at the same time, don't want to spoil it. So that's what that is.
What we thought, when we look at the issue of Kaiju and Cowboys that we have, we think Godzilla big footsteps, like you were saying there. That's it. It's, you look at the lettering, it's big boom. You look at the coloring, it's big. Explosive color, and we do like monolithic, impactful things, and it's we like that. What do we call it? Creative bombast. We like that.
Yeah. We are all ants, and Godzilla is Godzilla is there, and we are ants to him, and we just have to pray we're not going to get stepped on. And like, there's nothing
Indeed.
about it.
Or get the hot water treatment. And we're moving
Yeah.
swiftly on. Crowdfunder time, Matt. We
Yes.
noticed we always look at tiers, and we tend not to look at the whole page and scroll around, but we tend to look at things through our UK lens, that if we're going to back this and it's got to come through shipping, etc., what's affordable, what's the key points of a crowdfunder page. So we've got a PDF or the paper comic here. And hang on a minute, Matt's here. He can explain the campaign. Go, Matt.
All right. So, as you said, Azrael, we have a PDF file and we have physical stuff. We do tack on shipping costs, and we do charge a little extra for international shipping. But we do, we ship through the United States Postal Service. It's, shout out to our postal workers. They're fantastic. Both in the USPS and the Royal Mail, like, they are great. And so, we have, 6 issues. We have what I call the Cambrian bundle, which is like all 6 issues of Kaijus and Cowboys, plus, Romana's Magic and Guardians of the Last Dragon. So you can read everything. And we also have our trade paperback, which I don't have a copy of here because it's still at the printers. But, what is the point of a trade paperback? It's the whole story presented in a way that is accessible. It's, easy to store, and it's cheaper. I have the pricing system all set out and figured out. So basically, like, if you want if you want the cheapest option, I would recommend getting the PDF file. The PDF of issue 6, we also have them individually as well. The PDF file is just $5 US. The downside to indie comics is, like, you can't compete with Marvel and DC in terms of price, because, like, they're printing in bulk, and, like, they have the systems in place to, be able to produce books as cheaply as possible.
They've got scale.
Yeah, they have scale. We don't, but that doesn't mean, we can't try our best to make our books as accessible as possible. So we have that. All 6 issues collected into a trade paperback. And personally, this is a personal philosophy of mine. I am not the biggest believer in variant covers. I get the appeal of it, But at the same time, like, if you have one book coming out with like 20 different variants, it's like that's just greedy. However, we are incredibly lucky to have the friendship and services of a artist named Dope Pope, who has done like model work for like everyone, and he was gracious enough to provide a couple of variant covers for our book, including this one, which you can see. That's a cover of Doc.
Yeah.
For our book, and that's available for certain reward tiers. We also have patches, stickers, prints, like stuff that
Oh, you mean
uh,
these?
ta-da, ta-da. Yes, we have the badges. That's the badges are done by a friend of ours, a company called Smoky
Real
Mountain
sewn
Patch and
badges. We
Supply.
noticed authentic retro sewn badges. We like that. Go on.
Yes, yes, and they're iron-ons as well. I actually had someone reach out to me and say, can I have an extra patch? I want to put it on my jujitsu gi, and I was like, absolutely, go. That's fantastic. We have stickers. If you want to put them like on a book, if you want to put them on a laptop, if you want to, just share them around. If you want to give them to someone, there's that as well. That we our vendor is a company called Sticker App. They're not paying me to say this, but like they're very good at what they do. And
If
like
people do good work, Matt, we celebrate
yeah,
them. That's how you network.
absolutely. And for the people with a little bit of extra money to spare, we have custom artwork from Frankie himself. The To me personally, luxury means, is a word that means different things to different people. But for me personally, luxury means having something special, something that's unique, and something that only you can say you have. Because it's easy to make something nice. It's easy to make something that's solid and well. It's relatively easy to make something that's solid and well put together and will last a long time. But being able to, say, this is a piece of artwork that I own, that I can look at, that I can enjoy, and that I can share if I choose to, like that is special. And we have, these, sketch cards. They're 2.5 by 4 inches. I don't know what that is in metric.
No,
American.
we're fans of Imperial here on this show. You're fine. Keep going.
All right. But yes, we have these sketch cards that Frankie has been cranking out, and like you can have whatever you want drawn on these. Like after a campaign's over, I usually send Frankie a list of like email addresses, and he'll reach out to you and saying, hey, I want this on my card, and he will do it, and he'll do it well, and he'll do it quickly. So because like Frankie comes from an advertising background. He comes from a work environment and a place where like you have to get something done quickly and you have to get it done well. And if you
By a
don't, no one's going
deadline,
to call you back.
commercial art deadline.
Yes. If he was here, he'd be talking about like how like when he was learning his craft and learning his skill, his teachers, the thing they really ingrained into him was like you are a business, you're a business. You are here to make money. You are here to survive. And it's nice to create art, and it's nice to create something that people enjoy, and it's nice to create something that moves the culture forward. But at the end of the day, you know at the end of the day, you are here to feed yourself and you're here to take care of yourself. So and yeah, I couldn't help but I can't help but agree with that as well. Like
Stoic creative responsibility, folks. Do you hear that? Stoic creative
yes,
responsibility, a duty to
yes.
yourself. And then when you've taken care of yourself, you can take care of others. Yeah.
Yes, it's a duty to yourself, and by taking care of yourself, you are also taking care of your customers, and by taking care of your customers, you're also taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
We are really, really big on fulfillment. We are really big on making sure that the books are out on time, that they look that they look the best they can, and that you will get what you ordered.
Fulfillment
I've
is the
seen.
holy grail, isn't it?
Yes,
If you can nail fulfillment, you will build your audience slowly, organically, and gradual from there, because you will get a reputation as a company that can put out a range of quality books, make good publicity out of it, get people on your side, but also you deliver. That's the best
absolutely,
form of advertising. You deliver, that's the best form of advertising. When you
absolutely.
see those people online and at conventions, and they've got one of those fans holding up the books, and they've got a big smile on their face like this. It's great. We love that. We think that's the best
Yes,
kind of advertising. Word of mouth, perfection, fulfillment.
yes. I've had that happen. Like I'm starting to go to conventions now, and so if you're ever, you know, if you ever see us, stop by, say hi, sit and chat. And like Frankie and I are very active on, pretty active on social media. But like, if you have a question, we will probably see it and we'll do our best to answer.
Cool.
So, there's that. So, okay. Yes. Next thing.
Who is it for, Matt? Will we like kaijus and cowboys? Who's it for, Matt?
So, Kaijus and Cowboys is for readers of all ages. Like, yes, it is, violent, and yes, there is, there is some gore and there is some blood, but it is for anyone who likes the idea of big monsters, anyone who likes robots, who likes toys, who likes, like if you're like an 8-year-old kid who's in a sandbox and like they have their GI Joe versus like their Transformers and like goes "Arr!" like that that this is the book for you.
Yeah,
um
excellent. Yeah.
and like it's I like to describe one of the things I like to say is that like if you look at really well written children's cartoons, um, it's not just for the kids, it's for everyone. Batman the animated series was a Saturday morning cartoon, but they also understood that like the kids' parents are also going to be sitting with them and watching it as well. So like being able to talk about certain themes and ideas and things that are happening, and like putting that in a show in a way that appeals to a kid but respects them as well.
Almost that
um
classic tradition of Saturday morning cartoons where the family can actually enjoy the entertainment,
exactly.
whether it's Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, Valley of the Dinosaurs, Marine Boy, or maybe if you're around in the sense, oh wait a minute, we've got somebody saying hello, Matt. Mind our manners, how remiss of us. Hello, Dave Brinks of Genuine Comics. Hello there. Let me just type
Hello.
in the chat. Good to hear. I will put here. Good to hear from you, Dave Brinks. So yes, we'll go. Hello there. Yes. We were just talking about accessible comics, getting it out. I mean, obviously, if you want to cater to an adult audience, but it may limit initially until it achieves cult status and your tribe grows big. It may initially dampen your sales, but whereas the I guess you can't hit everybody
Well,
necessarily,
no,
but
like
the broader your appeal, like you're doing, it's like that Saturday morning cartoon kind of audience, where you like big monsters, you like cowboys, and you like dinosaurs and big robots. Already, I can just saying those words, I'm getting excited.
yeah, absolutely.
Calm
And
myself
like
down.
yeah. I think it was Don Bluth who said that children are a lot more mature than you think. Like you can like as long as you give them a happy ending, you can you can show a lot of stuff. I'm not saying like show like horrific ultra violence to like a 5-year-old. I'm not saying that, but like being able to talk about you know you know meaningful and important things.
Yeah,
Like
we used to have a
you
colleague.
can.
We used to have a colleague, and he used to say, "Look, you can push them."
Yeah.
It was an area of mathematics, but it said they've got a lot of potential. You can push them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah. We're
children
not.
might rise to that level. They might surprise you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, like there is a limit. Like don't go too far. But like
Yeah, exactly.
if you want to talk about like uh, you know, um, like you can discuss some pretty heavy stuff, and children are capable of rising to the occasion. They are capable of processing things and coming to some very interesting conclusions.
Well,
So
as
like
as having been a child once, and part of us still is that
me
inner
too.
child we all have. You know, children will surprise you. You live in an adult world, but you can try to understand things, and you can challenge adults and children alike with entertainment. But
Yeah.
obviously, as Stan Lee once said, make sure your heroes have feet of clay. Now, number 3, why do you create indie comics, Matt? And when did your journey with indie comics begin? Well, you said it was obviously 5 years ago, obviously when the great thing happened. So, but why do you personally create indie comics? Is it that sense of freedom, that sense of creative control, and be able to control your own creative destiny?
Yes. Yeah. That's definitely a part of it. Kaijus and Cowboys started 5 years ago, but my creative journey, started, earlier than that. Uh, as I said in the beginning, after I graduated university, um, I wasn't doing very well. Like, you know, not. I'm not getting political when I say this, but like I was working 5 different jobs, and I couldn't afford to live on my own.
Mm.
Um, that's not a
But
that's not a
we
message
all
that's just a
have
statement
that
of fact.
place in life,
Yeah,
don't we, Matt? We all have that place in life where,
and
we just, we've got to start from somewhere, both in our
yeah,
private
and
lives and in comics. And we almost get the sense, you can tell us if we're wrong, we almost get the sense that indie comics for you were part of your own hero's journey, almost your own redemption arc, because you're saying you're lying in bed, living with your parents, which we don't think is a bad thing. You
well,
know,
yeah,
it might feel that way, when you're young and you want to get out and be your own man, be a stoic man, get out and be your own thing and
yeah,
and make a living and be, there is that male pride about, trying to get out there, make, and be self-respect, purpose. And let's face it,
yeah.
as guys, we ain't happy unless we're using these to make a living.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, unless we're using these or unless we're using this, and that's
Yeah.
what indie comics are to me. It is mostly a chance to be creative and to be like, oh, I have thoughts about things that are happening. Let me put them down in a way that's, interesting and creative. Um, and but also it is, it's a sense of escapism, not just from a reader's point of view, but from a creator's point of view. I and like incidentally, I love my parents very much, and like it's not, I wasn't desperate to get out because I felt like I had to. It was, a sense of like, what is my purpose, and that sort of thing. And I
Matt,
found my purpose
go on.
with with comic books. I found it through being able to think about these stories and think about being creative, and also you know to I was able to move out, and like I do have a job that I like, and I do have a job that pays the bills. But at the same time, like, it's a job that, doesn't require a whole lot of thought. And so what that allows me to do is, as I'm doing this, I can think about my stories and think about, what's going on. And like, I can think about, what am I going to do next? Like, the best, you know, my best creative moments as a writer have actually been when I'm either, halfway through a 12-hour shift, or when I'm like, going for a jog and like, exercising.
Gotta ask,
So,
do you carry a notepad with you or your phone with you so you can peck it in before you forget the idea?
well, officially, I'm not allowed to have my phone when I'm at work. I work in a factory, so like, there are safety concerns.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer. This is not creative advice. This is something that, I do. This is a rule for me. I believe that if I can't remember an idea for 24 hours, it wasn't worth doing in the first place. So
Something.
like a lot of stuff is in my head, and
If it's
then,
good, it'll
I'll
come back to you.
yeah, yeah. And so like, I'll go home and like I'll write it down. Like I do have like, a list of, ideas and like, stuff out there that I can, fall back on. But like, it's a personal thing. If I can't remember it for a day, then, whatever. Move on to the next one.
There is merit to that. We see where you're coming from. Now, the creative team, obviously, we've got a lifelong fan of comics, as you've been listening to Matt, science fiction,
Over
and
and
everything pop culture related. Matthew graduated from Stetson University in 2012 with a BA in history. Good man. We like people with a sense of history, so we're not doomed to repeat it. But decided that a career of academic study and teaching didn't quite suit him. Yes, of course, we know a story about a person like that, so maybe they can relate to that. So he decided
Yeah.
to write comic books for a living. And Frankie B, we know you're chained to the drawing board, but we haven't forgotten you, Frankie. We love you very much, so we're going to say a bit about you too. Frankie is an alumni from the Butera School of Art with 30, yes, count them, 30 years freelance experience in the art industry as a commercial illustrator who knows how to get the job done with that balance of creativity and commerce and meeting those creative deadlines. He's worked on 2 Miramax films, an animation studio, folks, advertising agency, so he'll know all about ideas with a quick turnaround and meeting that creative deadline, commercial pressure of deadlines, print and comic book publishers, sketch and trading card companies, and others. And that was only half of each of the biopics. so they've crammed a lot, even to half of it. If you want to read the rest of the bios, they're actually on the Kickstarter crowdfunder page for
Yes.
kaijus and cowboys. Anything to
If
add
you
to
if
that,
you're
Matt?
it, the only thing I'm going to say is this: if you are a writer or a producer, or someone who aspires to be a part of the creative process, and if you can find someone like Frankie, hold on to them. Like, Frankie, Frankie's skills and, abilities, and, his who he is as an artist is more valuable than, anything within the art world. So, there's a reason why we've been working together for almost a decade. So, he is uh, he's a wonderful person, a great freelancer. He's also available for commissions, later on in the year. So, like, if you want something commissioned from him, like, feel free to reach out. He's very friendly and very approachable, and I don't mind sharing, as long as you pay him. So,
Yeah, we would say that genuine chemistry in life is rarer than gold. And if you get it,
mhm.
hang on to it. We were speaking to Heather Veely last week of Next Evolution, and she's got an artist, Martin Jimenez, that she's very connected with for the first 2 issues, and then moving on to issue 3. And funnily enough, we were saying, Heather, we look forward to you getting to the issue number 6 so they can turn the black and white into a colored edition. And I said, obviously, Heather, the Holy Grail is double figures, you know what I mean? So it's interesting that we see you slightly further along in the journey, and you've worked with Frankie B for 10 years. You must have something.
Yep, yep. And uh, yeah, it's been a journey, and we're still going. We're still going, and it's issue 6 is big. Um, I'm not going to spoil anything, but issue 11 is even bigger. So shh, be on the
Right.
lookout for that.
You heard Matt there, folks. It's big. And issue 11, Legs 11 is coming your way.
Even bigger.
Even bigger. Right, folks. What advice, Matt, as our resident creative expert today, would you give to aspiring creators? As you know, our show is family friendly. There are indie comic couples out there that are creating. The younger adolescents and children might be listening to this show in the future, but in the present. And they might be thinking, well, how do we get to do what Matt and Frankie B do? Where do we start? What do we do?
Whew. Well, hmm. There's a lot of advice to give, and there's a lot of things that I can say. I mean, you know, we're, Frankie and I are on our creative journey, and there are, there are people that are further along, and there are people that are not as far along as we are. And like, I fall victim to, seeing people, post their successes online, and I'll admit I feel a little bit jealous or like a little bit inadequate. But it's okay. Everyone moves at their own pace. Everyone moves in their own time. There's no right way to do things, despite what people might say or despite what we might want. Um, so you know, as long as you are learning, as long as you are pushing yourself, as long as you're willing to, put something out there, and as long as you're willing to be receptive to like constructive and helpful feedback, uh, the world is yours. Just the simple fact, just the simple ability to put something out there, even if it's a drawing, even if it's a single issue, that makes you that puts you leagues above like 80% of the people out there. There are the people that are writers. There are the people that are creators, and then there are the people that say they're creators. And we all know those people.
Well, it's called walking the talk, isn't it? It's one thing to
Yeah,
say it, it's another thing doing it. And what you got to say to Matt and Frankie B, they've been doing the creativity now for 10 years. Now we do have a question for you from the one and only Dave Brinks of Genuine Comics, who makes probably some of the best, well, indie superhero comics out there, the wild frontier of indie comics. So it's always a special moment when we get Dave Brinks of Genuine Comics in the chat, and he's always good
good to
at
have you,
asking
man.
interesting questions. So Dave's saying, how long does it take to make an issue, Matt?
Whew. So, I mean, it depends. Well, for me, it depends. Like if we're talking about like a script, it depends on things like how I'm feeling, like how sure I am of the of the story, the phase of the moon, how tired I am after work, all sorts of things. So
The
like
face to
I
the moon,
crank out
yes.
scripts in 3 hours. I've also spent like 3 weeks obsessing over scripts. It really depends in terms of making making the actual comic. We can crank out a single issue in 2.5 months. And like Frankie does the pencils, he does the inks, he does the colors. Um, but the important thing to note is that uh, the other advice I would give for creators: know your limitations as well and plan accordingly. we are doing a crowdfunding issue for issue 6, but
But
we have artwork for the next 2 issues all set and ready to go.
so you're
Um,
sandbagging, and we feel this is an area where more indie creators could embrace that idea of actually
Absolutely.
sandbagging the creativity. So you're prepared to go with the next issue. And we noted your timing actually 2.5 months. So you're between bi-monthly and quarterly, which obviously the closer you can get to 2 months and eventually 1 month, depends on people being, depends on basically how superhuman you're going to end up being. But obviously, the closer you get to a certain schedule, the more chance you have of making reoccurring money and building your
Absolutely.
reputation and creating
Consistency
momentum.
is the important thing.
Got another question
So,
for
but
you,
yeah.
Matt. We've got another question for you, Matt.
Oh
It's
boy.
again from Dave Brinks. He says, well, this is his advice. My advice that people think about starting to make a comic, don't. Yes, Dave. He's doing very well. I tell you, he's really starting to crank out these lovely superhero comic books with some beautifully, well, if visual eloquence was a thing, that's what they are. There is a meticulous exactitude and a grace and an elegance to the artist he has on his superhero comic books. But no, he's got here another question for you. He says, no, from script to final printed book. And you think you kind of said
Yeah.
it was like 2.5 months?
2.5 months. Although we, like I said, you know, we've planned ahead, and we have the artwork for up to issue 8. We're gonna have issue 9 done by the end of the year. But the whole thing is, the whole thing's plotted out, the whole thing's planned. There's a reason why movies spend so much time and money in pre-production, because if you plan ahead and if you're able to, get as much done as you can before, uh, then it makes everything else a lot easier. So, and pre-production has no time limit. So like you can take, if you take your time there, you can make sure you have the best thing, and then you can change things around. Then you can edit them at your leisure, and in your own comfort zone, as opposed to
Chasing your
stressing,
tail.
oh yeah, oh, last minute changes, and it's we have to send it to the printer in like 3 hours. No, 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 no. That's just poor planning. Which honestly is probably a big reason why like a lot of books are delayed. It's not, it's nothing to do with the creators. It's just if it's it's the planning. It's
It's the
the
planning. That's
behind.
interesting. So for you, actually, pre-production, planning, R&D, pre-production and planning are critical areas. Almost like, yes, harness your talents, yes, but marshal your resources.
Exactly, exactly. Like um, the when you're making a book, yes, it is important to allow the creative spirit to express itself, and having making. Oh, thank you, thank you. That's good to hear. And that's something Frankie's going to appreciate too. But yeah, it's important to marshal the creative spirit, and art for art's sake. Yeah, that's important, but it is a business. This you are putting something out there, and you are asking people to give you money for that. So it's you better make sure that what you have out there is worth that money, because people worked hard for this, and like they have chosen to share their time and their resources with you. So step up, make it worth their while.
Yeah, respect your audience. Do your audience, show them some love. Yeah, show them
Yeah,
some respect. Yeah.
absolutely.
What are your biggest frustrations? It's another great question with Dave. When Dave starts getting on a roll with the questions, they're always what we say are incisive. So Matt, what from Dave of Brinks of Genuine Comics? What are your biggest frustrations with actually making comics yourself?
Oh, time. Um, just like honestly, my biggest frustrations have very little to do with comics, and more to do with just like my personal life. Um, uh, uh, Time and money. Um, I'm 37 years old. I joke with people, like the joke I like to tell people is that like where I am right now in my creative journey and the business of what I do and what I make, um, I should have been doing this 10 years ago. Now there's no way I could have known, like, 10 years ago, I didn't even know I wanted to do this, but like, here we are. And like, there are, things I could have done personally that, where, if I had done things differently, like, I'd probably be better off. But, hindsight's 2020 as they were, as they say. Um, Also, like, um, I love the job that I have that, that pays the bills. Like it pays the bills. It gives me, a framework to, organize my life around. It's not enough. It never is enough, but like, I have, entire pages of like, scripts and ideas and stories that I want to tell. And I have like lists of like artists that I really want to work with, but I can't afford them right now. So just like I guess my biggest frustration is like the unrealized potential of what I have and where I could be. Um, but but I'm here. We're here. We're doing our own thing. We're doing something that not a lot of people get to say they've done, and we're doing something that not a lot of people are capable of doing, or have the time and resource to do. So we're incredibly lucky, and we're still incredibly privileged. But there's always there's always that frustration of unrealized potential.
So we
Um,
like the fact that you're taking that indie comics a form of catharsis for you, and
mhm,
that uh, we all have those frustrations in life. You know what I mean? The road, the valleys and the mountaintops as we put our wheel to the Sisyphus task of rolling that boulder. You know,
mhm,
but
mhm.
having a good network around you, a good creative partner, and being able to do stuff that not a lot of people get the chance to do. And we heard it, that sense of it's a privilege, and you're alive, and you get to
Mhm.
channel and harness your resources, marshal your resources, and harness your creative talents. It not a lot of people get the chance to do that, and you've got a job that's reasonably enjoyable that allows
Yeah.
it's almost like it's a fulcrum shift pivot to allow you to do this to a
Oh yeah,
degree.
yeah. It is like, yeah, like the I work in a factory. I make parts for things. And the great advantage of that is that it's a job that absolutely, like, it's a job that demands my time. It demands me to be like present and there in the most literal sense. But at the same time, it's a job that respects my time. Like, I clock in, I clock out. Once I clock out, my obligations are done,
Yeah.
and like, the rest of my time is mine.
Yes.
And that's something I really respect, and that's something I really appreciate. So like, little column A, little column B.
That's an interesting point because obviously some people have jobs which they demand of them even when they're not there, and they cast
Yeah.
a long shadow. So in a sense, that is a silver lining and blessing in disguise to facilitate a clear cutoff point whereby I think, right, now this is my time, our time. We can write the stuff, have a chat with Frankie, do a bit of social media, and there's that sense almost a holistic balance to it, up to a
Hmm.
degree, in your creative life. Now we've got to ask, what superhero would you be, Matt?
Ooh. A rich one. Uh,
Tony Stark.
maybe Batman without the trauma, or maybe Tony Stark without the alcoholism.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, my favorite superhero is Superman. Just
Yeah.
like the ability, like, it's not just that he has the ability to help people, it's that he wants to help people. And like, that's, it's a wonderful feeling, and like, it's a good, you know it's a good, place to be. So like, like, uh, uh, you know uh, I don't really know about getting into specifics, but like, a superhero that helps. Uh, like, and
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's yeah.
so Superman, what is he? Really, we like the idea in terms of our social media. What we try to do is treat other people as we ourselves would like to be treated, Matt. Our
Yeah.
guiding star is grace, gentleness, and generosity. And when we think about it, grace, gentleness, and generosity of spirit is something that Superman, at least in terms of character he's developed into, he has, to mean. And it's nice to have a symbol that sums up the best of us and what we aspire to be, even though we're not always perfect. Got another
No.
question for you.
Oh, goody.
Are your family and co-workers interested in your comics or the fact that you make them? From Dave Brink of Genuine Comics. Are your family kind of get where you're coming from, what you're doing, what you're trying to do? We know actually for Heather Veely last week, you can never underestimate, and not everybody has it, but you can never underestimate in her case, a supportive boyfriend that she has, supportive family, and obviously, again, getting that magic of a creative team that you got golden chemistry with. So, how do you feel about the question?
So, it's not a question of whether or not my family and coworkers are interested in my comics. It's that they have no choice. Um, well, in all seriousness, my family has been nothing but incredibly supportive, um, in my creative journey. Like, when I was just starting out, I got a bunch of Christmas presents, um, that were like, graphic novels and stories, and like, how to's on how to make comics. Like, those were like a pretty consistent, Christmas and birthday, uh, staple, when I started doing that. Um, and as for my coworkers, I'm sort of known, in on my shift as like the superhero guy.
The comic guy, the
Like,
superhero guy.
yeah, yeah, and so like, when I talk to coworkers about, like, the latest superhero movie that's coming out. It's like, oh yeah, like, it's like that. If you want to like read the comic it's based off of, which is usually better, you're gonna want to read this, this, and this. And oh, let me tell you about, like, the history of this particular company, or like, why this hero is the way he is, or what have you. Um, so yeah, I have a, again, it's also a privilege to have, a family that is supportive, and coworkers who are interested and willing to listen. I've sold a couple of comics to my coworkers as well. So, yeah. But yeah, no, like I said, it's not that they're interested, it's that they have no choice.
There
I
we
have
go.
given them no
No
choice.
choice, folks. It's the way it is, man. Right, bonus
Yeah.
questions, and here we go. We're going into the bonus questions round. Right, what are your plans for Kaijus and Cowboys going forward? Well, we get the feeling it's that trade book, get this crowdfunder done and celebrated, and then maybe into double figures. It's all planned out to that. Tell us.
Yes. Yes. We have plans to finish the series. We have the trade paperback. We're going to keep making this. We're going to keep this on Kickstarter. And like, after that, who knows? The sky's the limit. Like, if we want to get this into stores, we're going to see what we can do about getting into comic book stores. If there are any video game, card game, RPG people, or television people listening, we're very receptive. Call me. Um,
Have you
So
thought
let's
about trying Borders bookstore or Amazon online? Are those possibilities to kind of as further retail outlets for your good selves?
we're working on that. You know, I can't share too much right now, but like,
Of course,
there's some stuff in
discretion
the works.
in the
So
in the
there's
work.
that.
There is.
We also, how do I put this? Kaijus and Cowboys was not the first story to come out of this sort of scenario in this world that we've developed. There was, it is out in the ether, but there was a story that we developed before this that sort of provided some inspiration for this. And after the 12 issues of Kaijus and Cowboys wraps, there are plans to, make that happen as well. So,
Almost like an
you know,
offshoot storyline,
yeah, a prequel
a prequel.
um, for various, like, again, don't want to get into spoilers, but like, there's a reason why the robots are on an alien planet, and there's a reason why um, the kaiju are the way they are, and you find that out later. So, like, there's plenty of opportunities for some fantastic, stories and ideas coming from that. So that's what we have in mind, and that's our plan.
We do like Matt's creative teasing and sense of making the reader think, "Oh yeah, all right," then getting their brain going. We do like that. A bit of that's all
Well,
parts of the
in the
marketing,
immortal
folks.
words, yeah, in the immortal words of P.T. Barnum, always leave them wanting more.
Oh yes.
He may have been a not nice person, but like he had that going for him.
And as for the
So
great ether, we say our humble prayers. Right then, we have favorite pizza. It's question number 7, folks. What is Matt's? And if you know Frankie B's as well, I'm sure he wouldn't mind you dobbing him in. So, what is your favorite pizza, Matt?
like, where's it from, or like what favorite toppings?
We're talking which one of these pizzas are you going to stick your face in? Is it for us? It's a thin and crispy chicken and mushroom. Although I have to say the cheesy one with extra cheese in our case is also a thing. But right now, looking at but that's our drawing hand. This hand here, we're thinking of actually starting chewing on it right now. So if you've got a favorite type of pizza, tell us which one makes you feel the most hungry.
Uh, it depends on what I'm in the mood for. I have two favorite pizzas. I like green peppers and Italian sausage with standard crust and sauce and cheese. Or I usually go for pepperoni and mushroom. Um, like uh, but it depends. Like, it depends on how hungry I'm feeling. It depends on where the pizza's coming from. Like, I am very lucky to live in a city that has some really good pizza places. So, yeah, either sausage and peppers or pepperoni and mushroom. So,
Tell you what, that's making us really hungry. And right, our last good job. The next slide is this. Tell us seriously, Matt. Where can our audience? Obviously, it's not just who's watching now. We've got Dave Brinks has been in the chat asking questions, which is cool. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. But also the people in the future who might be rewatching this content when it's restreamed in their present. Where can they find out more about you?
all right, so I'm on Twitter under the handle mblair112. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. You can either find me as with my name Matthew Blair, or at Cambrian Comics. We have a Cambrian Comics website that has a question portal. I'm not usually the best at answering those, but like, if there's a genuine question and you're not spamming me for or trying to solicit anything, I'll get around to answering that. Um, Instagram under Cambrian Comics, Blue Sky under mblair112. Um, I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn too, but like that's more for
Business
professional stuff.
social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you might get those
So
movie kaiju and cowboys movie option people on LinkedIn, of course.
there's an idea. Just
Yeah,
keep
it's
putting
all
that
about
in
the
the ether.
networking, man. Business networking, Matt.
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Our business mentor, she hangs around on LinkedIn. Just saying. So
Yeah.
yes. Now
So
let's get
yeah,
to.
you can find Frankie usually in the same spaces and under Frankie B Wash. Um, but yeah, the best way to get our attention if you have a question is to leave a comment on our Kickstarter, because like that is like what we obsessively check, especially when we're running a campaign. It's like, I'm not gonna look, I'm not gonna look, I'm not gonna look, and then I check my phone like five times in an hour to see see if the needles moved. So
Folks,
that's the best
are an obsession. It is our
way.
destiny. Right then.
Yes, it's our destiny, and I only wish that destiny would be a lot easier to grab. But
Well, I'll tell you what,
can't be
there's a lot
helped.
of boulder with the Sisyphean task of indie comics. However, we say that Matt and Frankie B are at this for what seems like the best part of 10 years, 5 years, just on kaijus and cowboys. And there's something to be said for the character of people who can be consistent and stick to task. It's stoic. There's something very elegant about the way you marshal your resources and harness your talents. And really, at the 5 Pillars of Storytelling, we think that the actions there speak for themselves. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
we'd like to say thank you for being our special guest, and God bless you, Frankie B. We know you're out there. We know you're at your drawing desk, and we wish you well, Matt Blair, and Godspeed, Frankie B too. We say please like, comment, and subscribe, which is just like a X Twitter follow. It doesn't cost anything on YouTube, but we call it the power of one, just like in crowdfunding. Every sale counts, every follower counts, every donation. It all adds up to the creative momentum. Yeah. So we just like to put this comment up before we put our final trailer up, the outro trailer. Genuine Comics, thanks, Cal and Matt. Have a great rest of the day. And thank you, Master Dave Brinks at Genuine Comics, who does, you have to check out his superhero comics. They are elegance themselves, and they shine. There's almost some kind of George Perez kind of sunshine elegance about them. There really is. You can check him out on X and his own campaign. Right, and we do have an outro trailer. We love playing this because it's a nice positive vibe. Thank you very much. Take off professional honor. Yes, Frankie. Love you, Frankie.